afternoon and welcome to another edition of The Law New. Today is a very simple question we would want to examine in terms of the law, but important. The question is where allegedly third parties are found with items which have allegedly been stolen. How would the law treat that person? Now, it's very clear that the Summary Jurisdiction Offences Act of Guyana, and that would be Section 94, creates an offense for a person who is found with items unlawfully. Now, where a person is not a party to the actual crime, and that is that the person is not a party to the entire theft of an item, but that person innocently became in possession of that item by way of sale. Let's say the person decided that they are going to buy it on the streets, or that the person the item was passed down by some other means, which quite legitimate. How would the law treat that person? It is a subject of criminal investigation. That person, that third party, is going to be called by the police to, of course, be questioned in terms of how is it that they became in receipt of that item. Now, it is that person, that third party, it is the obligation of that person to, of course, say how is it that they became in receipt of that item. Now, in Guyana, as in many other of the Commonwealth Caribbean countries, the law and the learning on the law is quite the same. And I want to quote from a very famous case in the Commonwealth Caribbean, which outlines irresponsibility of a third party. And it says, where a person is found in the possession of a property proven to have been stolen, he shall be presumed to have stolen it. No, or he should be presumed to have received it, knowing it to have been stolen, according to the circumstances of the case. Here's the part. Unless he shall somehow have a satisfactory explanation of the manner in which he came into possession of the item. Clearly, that even though that has been the common law position throughout the Commonwealth Caribbean, it is a fundamental understanding and learning in our jurisdiction in Guyana that if a third party is found with an item to have believed to have been stolen, then that third party, if that third party is innocent of the knowledge or the participation in relation to that theft, then of course it would be for that person to give an explanation as to how they became in receipt of that item. It is quite important for us to understand that the police responsibility in investigating a crime spans in two ways. One, the police have found that you are in receipt of the item. Two, someone has reported that that item was stolen. Now, the person who reports that the item is stolen has a responsibility to help the police to identify the item. So when the police comes to a third party, the police is coming to the third party with the presumption that they would have already had in receipt, or with their investigation, there is at least some information in relation to the description of the item. Why is the description of the items important? Because if one is going to accuse another person that you are in receipt of an item that was stolen, then that must be established through some form of investigation. The second limb is that if the person, the third party, does not give an explanation as to why he is in receipt of that allegedly stolen item, then the person, the third party, runs the risk of having a charge instituted against him. Now, under the laws of Guyana, two charges can be preferred. One charge can be preferred in which the person is in receipt of an unlawful possession of an item. And the second charge that can be preferred is that of simple larceny. Of course, now if the police does not have, of course, information which advances a case that the third party is an innocent party and may not have been a party to the crime, then you can also be able to draft yourself in the criminal liability of having stolen items. The third thing that can happen to a person who is a third party with an item allegedly stolen is that that person can also be charged for receiving stolen articles. Now, all three of these offenses that I have outlined, which are covered under the laws of Guyana, requires two things. They require that the person took part in the crime, and that is that the person participated in the crime. And then it requires that there is some form of mental element which exists in the crime. What is the mental element? Is that when the person took the item, the person intended to permanently deprive the owner of that item. Now that is the elements, the fundamental elements of in which the offense of itself will be grounded. Now, in order for a third party not to be grafted in to that type of criminal liability, that party will definitely need to give a very satisfactory explanation as to how they became in receipt of the item. What are some of the satisfactory explanations that can be preferred? One of such is to give very detailed information as to where the purchase took place. How is it that you became in receipt of the item? Now, why is it sometimes that it's a good recommendation that persons, when purchasing, make sure that they are issued a receipt? Because that is going to be prima facie proof or to establish that you legitimately bought the item. Now, of course, these type of behavior and these type of pieces of supporting, I would say, supporting documentation to help to establish your position is important. Why is it important? Because you are going to be able to establish that you were not in receipt of information that the items were stolen. Now, something else raises a red flag that we all should be aware of. Sometimes we purchase items or we go to purchase items, but the seller, the person who is selling, may not be the person who has authorization by way of regulations to sell that item. That, of course, must raise a red flag with you, so that you may be one to be careful not to purchase items from persons who are not authorized to sell that item. Some other things in which raises some form of red flag would be, of course, items which the person does not have any form of documentation for. Now, if that person does not have a form of documentation for the items which the person wants to sell, then you need to be very mindful not to go ahead to say, I am going to purchase without documentations. Now, of course, you must understand that if an allegation is raised against you, or you as a innocent bystander or third party is drafted into a charge in which the police want to prefer against you, then these are things that are going to work either for you or against you. So in closing today, I want to safely say that a third party can be charged for having or being in receipt of unlawful possession of items which of course we are saying could have been stolen. But of course, if you are going to be vindicated from that criminal liability, then you need to prefer a satisfactory explanation as to why you are in receipt of that item. I thank you until the next edition.
Audio Jungle.